Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Alfina Zahwa Praninda. I take the meeting 12 for my presentation entitled The Stage of Language Acquisition by Stern's Theory, and this video is submitted as a final assignment for Introduction of Psycholinguistics. If you are curious about what I learned from this meeting, now let's take a look. Stern and Stern is generally considered to be the first real classic in the child language. Stern in 1924 provides a comprehensive statement of their view of the major stages of language acquisition. Stern varies between the term stage and the period. He sees development as scanning 5 time periods. One he calls a preliminary stage, and the other 4 he calls periods and numbers them 1 to 4. There is no language during the first year. Stern sees it as an important precursor for later acquisition. There are 3 major activities during this year, that is bubbling, imitation or echo bubbling, and rudimentary understanding. At first, these 3 are independent of one another, but gradually merge together. Bubbling occurs because the child is innately disposed or programmed to babble. Stern doesn't use this exact word, but talks about impulses and inner energies. There are 2 inner drives behind babbling. One, the drive to express oneself, and the other, drive to socialize with others. The drive to express oneself leads to practice, which is necessary for later facility with words. It also allows the child to establish association between certain states of feeling and the sound form belonging to them. The child's imitation or echo bubbles are also the result of an impulse or innate disposition. This activity also allows the child to practice speech. Next, rudimentary understanding refers to the child's responses to certain utterances, such as the clapping to a pat a cake or waving like bye-bye. This act do not show understanding of the structure of language, but only an association of a sound or set of sounds with a certain action and context. Stern believes this first understanding of speech has at first nothing to do with an intellectual grasp of the logical significance of words. In fact, months pass before this stage is reached. The first period begins when the child consciously produces a word with meaning, around first year. The main behavior of this period is the slow growth of one-word sentences. Stern emphasizes the gradualness of the development of the child's productive vocabulary and defines the end of the period by spurt in vocabulary usage. The selection of words during this period is not random, but it is determined by several factors. The first factor is many words used around the child are beyond its current cognitive level of understanding. They are more likely to come within its understanding if they consist of sounds that are part of the child's babbling repertoire. There is thus the influence of the child's articulation capabilities. And the second factor is the words selected tend to be onomatopoeic, that is phonetically similar to the sound of things. For example, moo moo, like a cow sound, meow, like a cat sound. And then Stern addresses the interplay of the words presented to the child by its environment and the desire of the child to express inner needs and ideas with its own phonetic repertoire. The first period ends, and the second begins with the child's rapid development of vocabulary. In the second period, vocabulary growth goes through an acceleration stage. The child realizes that everything has a name with, first one, a subsequent spurt in a word acquisition, the second one, questions about the names of things, and soon after, the first multi-word utterances appear, first hesitantly, but then more fluently. In the second period, we can find a principle of the linguistic sign, that is, a principle of realization that phonetic events can be paired in a conventional way with concept. The principle of the linguistic sign followed by the principle that leads to early word combination. The rapid acquisition of vocabulary and the desire to seek names are both the result of this underlying principle. One feature of this principle is that it is an awakening from Stern's terminology. This suggests that it is an internal ability that has been triggered by the previous experience of the early first period, which was presented as a transition stage. The child goes beyond the limit of its early associative links between sounds and the real-world events. Stern goes on to analyze the nature or categorization of the vocabulary developed during this period and beyond. He proposes three stages. The first stage is a subtense stage. That is, most of the words are referring to nominals, for example, the names of things. And the second one is action stage. The terms for actions enter the vocabulary and grow. And the last one is relation and attribute stage. We can presume that the principle of the linguistic sign also contains some guidelines on how to classify. These three stages appear to be co-occurrent stages, focusing on new behaviors that enter the child's language. The first major gains in syntax occur in the third period around 2 years. Sentences become well-formed in that they contain words for the major grammatical relations, like subject and object. The acquisition of inflection begins and may last for years. Syntax consists of the loose linking of words together where word order may vary. The range of acquisition expands. And then there are two major grammatical changes. The first one, the onset of the acquisition inflection, and the second one is the combination of words by syntactic rules. The principle of syntactic structure, one which directs the child to formulate rules of sentence structure within the restriction of universal grammar and some theory of acquisition. Stern's fourth period starts from around 2 years, 6 months. The simple juxtaposition of words in syntax is replaced by hierarchical structure and the acquisition of embedded or subordinate sentences. The acquisition of some grammatical morphemes still continues, and the child questions now include those of time and causality. This period is marked by the three changes. The first change is the appearance of subordinate sentences. The complementizers, relative pronouns, and adverbials that mark the subordinate may be absent. The second one, the use of question. The children lightly used any concrete question using what, where, why, and when. And then the last one, the creative construction of new words.
You got me so